Everyone, welcome back in. Betsperts Golf here for the 2024 RBC Canadian Open. Joined here as always, no meat sweats, but I know he was grilling heavy over the weekend and getting it all in. I don't want to rule out meat sweats. It's early in the show, but Andy, what's going on?
I had to restrain myself this morning. Something I do like is cold ribs, and
Okay.
Costco sells a 3-pack of baby back ribs. Pretty decent. It's Smithfield, decent quality meat from Costco, as for all things considered. Plus, they remove the silver skin for you, so it's even easier. Recommend the ribs at Costco, but they only sell them in 3-packs. And I have a wife and 2 children, and 3 racks of ribs is too much. So it's just kind of like that's how it goes. There's always going to be leftover ribs. Almost had some at like 6 this morning, but we'll hold off until tonight. Yes, it was a good Memorial Day weekend for those of you who celebrate that in the States here. Hopefully you had a nice relaxing day off. Today we're going to leave the States. Like Ryan said, go up to Canada. We'll talk about the course. A little different than, most weeks, almost like a major week, non-masters, where we have to figure out a different course because they do put this on a rotation. I know they played like 3 years in a row at one joint, and they've done that in the past as well. But for the most part, the Canadian Open is going to be on a rotation similar to the Open, the U.S. Open, what have you. So we'll dig into that course. We'll talk about some of the changes they made. They did a pretty heavy overhaul. We'll talk about some key stats, the field, what we think matters. We'll build a model and talk about who wins. And if you could, and you should, and I hope you would, do hit the subscribe button. Appreciate you guys hanging out with us as we get into Canada, Hamilton. This is, just right off the bat, it's one of those things you don't think of because we're kind of past all that now, but they had the 2019 version here. And like we did with Colonial, they said as soon as we're done, we're going to start a revamp. Unlike Colonial, they didn't have to get it done in 11 months. They had 5 years. But also, unlike Colonial, they also ran into we can't be near each other now, like full on pandemic right afterwards, right in the opening stages of this. So there were a little bit of difficulties at the beginning of this revamp, rehash, rebuild, redesign with the COVID being, most of 2020 kind of screwing things up, but they did get it done. And I kind of want your take, because my take is like they made it a little longer, they made it a little nicer, but they really didn't change how this course is going to play.
Yeah, a great job. I think that's it. I mean, it's very similar to Colonial, where there was a facelift per se, but like not going to be playing drastically different. A lot of it was more so like a lot of last week's stuff with Colonial was like drainage and a lot of like work underneath the course to make it play better. Yeah, like so it's not necessarily going to play way different. And I think you could also make the case that whatever was stretched out yardage wise, and depending on where they put the tees, we're still going to be just a touch over 7,000 yards, a little shorter in relation to what we typically see on tour. But there's a lot of like major elevation changes here. So we'll play a little bit longer than I think the yardage will dictate. But I think a lot of it's offset by distance gains made over the last 5 years through technology and player performance and all of that stuff. So I think it still plays relatively short. But again, I think some of that is hidden. A lot of it's like, so use some shorter par 4s. These par 3s are pretty massive. It's a par 70, so you only have the 2 par 5s. So there's just not a lot of, the yardage is kind of hidden in there through elevation changes. So I wouldn't consider it a short course per se. And when you look at the leaderboard, like I was trying to find some stuff, YouTube clips, like Rory went out and did some stuff on Sunday here, but the rest of it, scoring was, I would say, like average to
it looked middle pack outside of like what Rory did in his win was, and we're alluding to the 2019 version. Rory won going away. I mean, he just went berserk on Sunday. But other than that, a lot of guys were kind of in the middle of the pack range. The scores weren't terribly low. The average score was over par for the week. So it is kind of like It's short. Hey, it's only 7,000 yards. It's not that short because it is a par 70 and we got to go yards per par. And of course, with the elevation changes and some of the
Yep.
route, it's not that short. Hey, it's easy because Rory won this with, basically shot like 60 on Sunday. Well, it's not that easy. Like there's still some difficulties here. So it is kind of middle of the pack for both of those things as far as what I'm looking at. And like again, back to what I said, I don't think a ton has changed, although we have seen, like you said, massive emphasis on club head speed, on distance gains, and some of these guys. And it's kind of a weird week for that because I think there is going to be quite a bit of clubbing down where, hopefully your club head speed is helping you with your long irons because it's just 150 to 200 all day long. All day long. Like I said, long par threes. There's a drivable 4, but a lot of the 4s are 450-ish. So it is going to be dialing in those irons and finding it on the bent grass greens again.
Yeah, the Rory thing is, we're trying to pick an outright winner, so I don't want to say like toss out the Rory stuff because that's within the range of outcomes, obviously, for what the winner is going to do. But for the most part, and again, like the dynamic of who was playing at the time and who was really good back in 2019 is different than what we have now. It was Rory and DJ went like bomb and gouge, basically. They tried to cut some of the dog legs out. They were very aggressive off the tee in terms of, club selection, right? Driver selection, whereas a lot of other guys, as a less than driver course, still positional course. And you look at the rest of the leaderboard at the top. So Rory won. And then you got Webb Simpson, Shane Lowry, who finds fairways, not a lot of distance, Matt Kuchar, Brent Snedeker, Adam Hadwin, Sanjay Im. These are like accuracy guys. Now, Rory went out and lapped the field because he did both. He pounded it and then found fairways at the same rate as basically everyone else, maybe even a little bit better, even though he was, clubbing up with driver, and putted well, scrambled his face off. Like, they had the whole thing. So Rory has this in his bag. He's occasional, like he goes blackout performances where he, gains 10 strokes on the field. And that's what he did over the weekend and won comfortably. But in terms of where everyone else was, single digit scoring for the most part. Cut was at -1, but like you're still finding yourself right around the top 10, right at 9 under, 10 under or so. So I still think we could get into a spot where everyone thinks this plays a little bit harder than Oakdale last year. When that playoff was, high teens. So I think if we don't have a Rory type situation, I think we're probably in that 14, 15 range again, in terms of what we should expect scoring wise. And I think this has kind of been a thing for Canada. If you look at what they've done the last handful of years, they did it last year at Oakdale because I think they were probably worried about people just like tearing it up. They grew the rough out and it was thick. They did it at St. George's the year before, and that's kind of what they did last time they were here at Hamilton. So I feel like it's a staple of like the Canadian Golf Association or whatever. Like they want to make this a little bit of a challenge. They don't want their national championship being TPC Craig Ranch. I think that they really prefer something that's a little bit more of a test. And I think we get that this week. I think it's, again, not like difficult, but I think it's towards the middle of the pack in terms of where we are at. And I don't think we get to 20, and I don't think we have multiple guys at 20, which is pretty common nowadays.
Yeah, it is hard to guess. When you've had, hey, here's a course we play it every year. Weather conditions look about like they're going to look. Here's the normal field. Like you can usually say, like, hey, the finishing score is going to be within probably 2 or 3 of last year. Plus minus one way. It's hard to guess, but I always like to do it in my head. I'm figuring like 12 under, 12 to 12 to 13, 14, somewhere in there.
Yeah,
it's kind of my assumption, just based on the difficulties this course can bring. It looks like it's going to be all short grass around the greens, which is fun if you're missing. Like I said, if you're not dialing in these irons. And I think that's something I'll be looking for in some of the reports from today, with the practice rounds. There's some weather, I believe, that delayed the I don't know how far that is from this course. So here's the thing about Monday qualifiers. So if you don't know what a Monday qualifier is, we don't have it in invitationals or majors or things like that. But for anything that says open, you can qualify. I don't know what the prereqs for getting into that tournament are, but you play your way in. 4 guys play their way in every week. And there's some bad weather there, apparently, or something got pushed where the there's a playoff. There's always a playoff, guys, by the way. That's the other thing about Monday qualifiers is, hey, here's like 150 guys or whatever, and they're playing 18 holes. There's always going to be a tie. One time there was like a 17-way tie for fourth or something. They had to bring out literally like a dozen and a half guys to play a playoff. I'm not even sure how the logistics worked on that, but so that's where I was wondering about checking like the weather leading up to this, because I think it was a long way to say, I wonder how these greens are going to be, because, if there is some firmness, some quickness, if it's closer to 12 and a half rather than 11 and a half that we might see, and we're bouncing, we're flying off, the rough is actually giving them more problems than we think it could. We're getting some flyers. There's some areas for these to run. It's not like we said, it's not the collars of rough around the greens. There's a few spots where the balls could absolutely run, and you're going to have to bump and run it, 50 yards back. That's exaggerating, but quite a ways back in some of these spots. For sure. So it's going to be interesting to see how the greens are playing. I think that's going to make a big difference in the scoring. If they're receptive and soft and guys are able to throw some darts and everything's, easily controlled out of the rough, if the fairways are, getting found left and right, then maybe scoring is going to be a little lower than I think. But I think it is going to come down to that for the most part. So we'll see what the weather's looking like and what some of the reports from the course are as far as how these greens are looking.
Yeah, I think there will be some Texas wedges here as well with the shaved runoffs, which you love to see. I love shaved runoffs. I think it's just way more interesting. And Harry Colt is like an OG course designer in Europe and is laid out some of like the better courses in Ireland and the original Muirfield over there as well. Not Muirfield Village where we're at, but the original Muirfield. So there's a little bit of a linksy feel to some
Dublin,
of it too.
not Dublin.
Yeah, right. Yeah. So they opened up, I think, some of the front of the greens as well. There's some like you can run it in a little bit too. So that's an interesting way to approach your approach shot if you're in the rough this week too. You're gonna hack it out of there if they grow it up. But yeah, my point was that I think that the Canadians are comfortable growing it up and making it a test. And I think that that's something that's important too. So more commonalities again to Colonial last week, where positional golf course, fairway is important, where you're at in the fairway is important to make sure that you have a shot to land here. And these are complicated green complexes. This is another kind of signature piece that the renovation team here was trying to get back to the original design. And that's kind of what they're known for here too. And I think that in combination with the shaved runoffs this is another thing that keeps scoring in check and really, I think, tests skill in a better way than these thick around the green aprons where the ball's, just captured. And it was really not a ton of skill, less skill, I will say, in terms of, getting the ball close to the pin from a scrambling standpoint when you have the thick stuff versus the shaved runoff. So yeah, I think it's going to be an interesting one this week.
Sometimes I get in my head a little, and I don't want to like start a career in golf course design, but I have ideas. I feel like I just want to like write them to somebody who maybe they'd listen. I think the best around the green would be, how the fairway leads in, and like you said, you can roll it up on that apron. I'd get rid of that. And then the long grass, like he says, how it can catch something. I would do that around the front third of the green. Like the part facing the fairway. So anything short stops instead of has a chance to roll up. And then just fucking quarter-inch cut on the back with a hard down, how the hard down slopes. I love those runoffs off the back.
Yeah.
It's like, no, expect the best.
I'd
like to see more runoffs like that. So that'll be pretty interesting. And you brought up the design, what is the guy's name?
Harry Colt.
Well, not Harry Colt, the redesigner, Martin Ebert.
Ebert, yeah. So
Ebert, like you said, a lot of he did redesigns at some of the. It's not like this is like a Canadian thing. I think what I was reading is like he did a bunch of redesigns across the pond as well.
Yeah.
And yes, I can't remember, and I don't think this is like predictive or something you should use, but I read it in one of the articles this morning and I thought it was interesting. Was like, last time we were there, it was Rory and Shane won 2. And then some of the not comp courses, but other courses that were worked on were Liverpool and Portrush. And
Portrush, yeah.
Yeah, those were the ones that I think those were the ones that those 2 guys won on. So it was kind of interesting. And I do think, like, however you want to slice it, like, it is kind of up Rory's alley, even if he has to club down quite a bit here. So this
1000%.
Yeah, we saw a little bit of underperforming at the PGA, and obviously, I think people are having high expectations for a guy who just got, like, divorced on Monday. But man, it might just be a repeat of 19. Feels like 19 out here.
Yeah, he filed. I mean, you never know. The divorce process can go, quick and easy for some, and a little bit longer. I'd imagine there's a lot of things to be divvied up there between Rory and Miss McIlroy. But yeah,
no green jackets to divvy up.
No. But some properties.
Do you think Amanda made him file on Monday?
Oh, dang.
We're not going to do rumor mongering here, but I do enjoy. There are several offshore books that have odds up for who Rory's next girlfriend are, and
she's got to be what minus.
She's like minus 200, I think. Yeah, it was pretty heavy now.
Allegedly.
Rory,
yeah, it was interesting to see that they had matching outfits for post Sunday round at Quail Hollow, which is interesting. But hey, whatever. To each their own. We handicap the golf part of it too, but it's definitely interesting to see for sure. So yeah, it does feel like a Rory thing, as he's priced as if basically where Scotty has been living for the most part on odds boards. I thought he would have been an interesting look. We don't typically like to go to 6, 7, 8 to 1 often. That would have been, I think, interesting, but he's basically sub 4 everywhere, and that's an entirely different conversation. So not for me. I'm very confident that you're not betting. You don't like to bet Rory at double digits. So there's no chance in hell you're firing at Rory at 350 or whatnot. So, but again, it feels like a spot where if he hits that upper echelon, I mean, he can whoop Scotty when he goes full Rory like he did Sunday at Quail, Sunday here last time we were here. So interesting field, not a super strong field. Feels a little bit weaker than years past. Feels like there's a pretty good drop off, but top tier decent, which is interesting because you get at this point, for the most part, these top guys are playing be 3 weeks in a row because we have Canada, we have the Memorial, and then we have the US Open. Yeah. So we're leaning into that, which is interesting to see. So
maybe some guys want to big tournament, but yeah, it's a big tournament, but a bunch of guys will skip it because of scheduling, because they're certainly not going to miss the Memorial. Right. And obviously they're not going to miss. Looking at it and looking at, like, who's your second favorite here? Is Tommy Fleetwood, guy who's allergic to winning? Sahith, Sahith hasn't done it on the big stage. Alex Noren, great. I should bet him top 20. Guy top 20s every week. He's just like steady Eddie right there. But I'm not sure I want to bet Alex Noren at 25 to 1. And then what? Cam Young, allergic. Sam Burns. Sam Burns is in a weird spot after he had that hot streak. Corey Connors, I mean, he's gonna model popper. He's a model popper, but not a guy I'm going to bet. Lowry, Scott, Kim, Keith Mitchell. We're already at Keith Mitchell. Yeah. So when you don't have Scotty, you don't have Xander in the field. That's how you get Rory to 4 to 1 and keep me actually thinking about it. I don't know what I'm going to do with this. It might just be I don't see how Rory doesn't like top 10, even in a full field, 156 here. If that's like even money-ish, it's not going to be. I'm going to have to go look at what the prices are for that.
Yeah, top 10 for Roars, you're like minus 175 is the best at market.
Yeah. Boy, his odds do suck. This is no fun.
They do. So I'm with you. Like I said, if he was 7 or 8, like it's not a comfortable spot, but like you can make a one-man card feel like you might have a shot. Now the difference between Rory and Scotty is Scotty is just always in the mix. Rory does have a floor.
He fluctuates a little more.
Right. Yeah, the ceiling is definitely in the same range. But I'm with you. It's an interesting an interesting leader or top of the odds board because it's just not a lot of guys that have a ton of week in week out win equity. A lot of guys that are competitive. I think we all agree that Thagala eventually could work his way into that, but I mean, right now he's not there. He's just not consistent enough. So, and do I want Thagala on a positional less than driver track? I feel like that's not going to be his MO once he starts to kind of unlock his ceiling more consistently. But yeah, I mean, I could be wrong. Who knows? Like he could be just one of those guys and he can fit on any course. But again, outside of Rory, Webb Simpson, Shane Lowry, Matt Kuchar, Brant Snedeker, like this is who was here and towards the top of the leaderboard last time we were at this track. And I feel like that's some of the golfer archetype that I want to kind of hone in on this week in terms of, building out a betting card. Cause I feel like that's just going to be more sticky.
Yeah. Let's talk some key stats. And I think there's two ways to look at this because we talk about key stats and we use it in the sense of, modeling on the rabbit hole to try to find some guys who like, hey, who has all of the things that matter this week and form. We usually use form. We're not just looking at course fit when we try to build these models to, help us, aid us in our journey in betting and DFS. But when we talk key stats too, I think sometimes it speaks to how you're constructing your betting card. Because let's say Sony, Sentry, what have you, Detroit, 3M if there were better players there. Honestly, Detroit if there were better players there. But like when you end up on these birdie fests and when the key stat is get really lucky with your putter, I think your construction is quite a bit different. So that's where I kind of want to pick on that first as far as what matters here. Obviously, I already talked about longer approach shots. I think that's not like super long, 200. There's going to be some 200 plus, but kind of that 150 to 200, just approach in general. Probably good drives. Accuracy is going to matter a little bit, even if you're clubbing down, because there are some dog legs. There are some spots where you're going to need to open yourself up to a good second shot. And then I'm not sure where we're going from there. If it's comp courses, if it's just bent crests, maybe putting, floor ceiling stuff on putting. If it's around the green proximity stuff again, because we feel like we're going to miss some greens here. I'm not even sure how you feel about where the greens and regulation percentage will be. So what's your thesis, I guess, on this course for what matters and how you think those stats will form a leaderboard?
Well, last time we were here, we had, again, knowing that we had a lot of clubbing down, we still had a driving accuracy rate sub 55%, about 7% below tour average. So I think you only see more of that continue where you see more guys try to take advantage of dog legs with distance and give themselves, you're going to be, chances are you're in the rough, but maybe you can do that with a wedge from, a buck 25 out. Because as you mentioned, like we have more basically from 50 to 150. There's more of those shots here than a standard tour event where we kind of give it back a little bit. There are fewer from 150 to 200 significantly, but because you do have some high leverage 200 plus shots, that's going to matter a little bit too. Those are the par threes, the tee shots on par threes, and then some of the, the longer, couple of the par fives, like those are going to be important because you have to have a good shot there because the field's going to take advantage of some of those shorter, scoreable par fives. So, greens and reg also below tour average last time we were here. Just a tad bit, but a couple percentage points. So greens, they made a little bit bigger, but not massively. Still on the smaller side in terms of, green size. And with the shaved runoffs, it's going to be some spots where maybe some greens that were held in years past are not held. So yeah, around the green proximity, scrambling on short grass, some things that we can uniquely look at through the rabbit hole, I think are going to matter. Because I mentioned like the shorter proximity ranges, they're pretty equally distributed. So I feel like approach in general, more so than like getting in the weeds on any of the proximities. And because you're going to have such a high amount of shots from the rough as well, it starts to get really small, the sample of what you're like counting. You probably have to add every range bucket because I think not capturing some of the other ones, it just gets too granular. All of a sudden you'd have to have like 10 proximity buckets, both
I know,
fairway
and
enough and
looking back at 19, I'm with you there. I just leaned more towards the 150 to 200 based on what they've said for the rebuild, on like some of the shots it's going to want to force with some of the bunkering, with some of, you know, where we've ended up on the redesign. If there might be a couple holes that play differently, but like you said, if it just turns out to be a pretty wide dispersion of every kind of shot in the second shots, wouldn't surprise me either. So I don't want to maybe guess in that sense. So I'm fine, you know, just looking at approach, just looking at around the green. We might just be using the 4 food groups today. Like it might just be off the tee, less than driver, approach, just overall proximity, around the green, proximity or around the green from short grass, you know, and then putting, bent grass. Like it might be as simple as that instead of getting really, really granular, because I think the weeks that we build models on here and we get really granular are the weeks where, hey, it's the 114th, you know, time we've played at this course, and we know everything about this course, and we know what matters. Whereas a week like this, maybe there's a case to be made for zooming out a little and just, you know, sticking to some more basic stats like that. You can give it again, you know, we know there's going to be clubbing down here compared to a normal course.
Yep.
So, I mean, we can throw in some filters like that for sure, but I don't know how in the weeds I want to get when we're just.
No, I think it's a good point.
You know, we're just guessing.
I think there are edges to be found in weeks like this. I think you can really approach it in 2 ways. I think you can either pick a really clear, like, golfer archetype and hone in on it and be like, this is what I think is going to happen in my card. These guys are they all play in the same musical group. Or you can be like, hey, I don't know. So I want to have a wider dispersion of golfers. I want to have a fairway finder. I want to have a guy that I maybe just think is mispriced or whatever. And then you want to have someone that's a bomber, plays a little bit of a different style just to cover your bases in case you're wrong. So I think those are kind of the 2 ways you should approach weeks like this. I feel like we know a little bit, but maybe it could be wrong. Maybe I could be wrong. And then there's just more opportunities, and there's tee boxes in different spots, and like more opportunities to take on dog legs off with the driver off the tee. And you see a higher rate of guys going, you know, driver here. But I don't think that's going to be the case as much, because more so than anything, I think they're going to make the rough penal enough that you want to really avoid it.
And that's where I wonder about using too much from 2019. And I know it's only been 5 years, and this is probably a bad comparison, but using what you knew about Valhalla didn't turn out that well. you know, from like and granted, that was 10 years. That was a long.
For sure. And they took on a shit ton of rain at Valhalla, so it made it hard too.
And the weather was unfortunate for people who like to see golfers challenged by anything, any sort of. They needed to put like nets in front of the greens that you had to hit over if they wanted to make it hard. It wasn't going to happen. So that's been kind of like nagging at me. You know, hey, you know, sometimes these courses, we see them every 5 to 10 years and we're able to glean something. But, you know, there's always cases where it's like, this didn't play anything like it played 6 years ago. Like, what were we doing? It didn't even change that much. Sometimes, and like you said with Valhalla, sometimes it is just the weather. So I'm kind of stuck halfway in between. I'll let you take the wheel on this, but
the one thing I know that we have here that we didn't,
like you said too, that the speed thing, you know, just it's kind of in that general, like, when do you think that started to happen? When did when was like
2019?
I was going to say, when did his lips first touch that first protein shake? Like, when did he say, I'm getting jacked, I'm getting swole? That was like the genesis, you know, it's like patient zero for clubhead speed.
It is. Remember, he was in Rory's head. Rory was all like, you know,
Rory developed a really bad miss, like for a year after and you know, Rory's since fixed that and has gotten much back on track. Obviously, he's played well. He has a win. You know, he has multiple wins over in DP. Like, he's fine. He's going to be okay. But yeah, there was a bunch of guys that kind of went and got after it with that. So that's my concern. It's like, oh, it's only been 5 years, but it's like, oh, a lot has happened in the last 5 years. So
what I feel confident in is the rough is going to be grown out, and these green complexes are challenging. And I think the shaved runoffs make it harder. And that was, again, part of the problem at Valhalla was the green complexes are not challenging.
So
The
easy.
apron around them prevented you from, and the rain prevented you from missing. So you could really take, if you decided that wasn't, you were out of position, you couldn't go at the pin, well, you could play to the middle of the green with no issue. That's going to be, I think, a little bit harder to do here. Again, it's tough that we're comparing the Canadian Open to the PGA Championship. That should not be the case, but it's where we're at. I think we're going to have a harder test of golf this week than what we had at Valhalla a couple weeks ago.
It'll be 2 weeks in a row, 3 weeks, because 4. Obviously, because Muirfield's tough, and then obviously U.S. Open's always tough. Yeah, this is your tough golf stretch. Your best day ever. Let's say you're really flushing it. Everything's straight, 280 down the middle, putters 90%. What do you shoot at Valhalla that Saturday?
It's still so 84. From the tips. It's still long.
Yeah, it is kind of long. I'm going to let you play from the Reds.
Okay. Yeah,
81.
No, I'm still lower than that. I'm still I'm higher than that. I'm still in like the high 80s to mid 90s for sure.
I'm putting you at an 81.
I appreciate
I'd probably
that.
shoot even par.
You're long off the tee. We put you the red stakes.
Oh God, I'm driving a lot of greens.
Yeah.
Oh, I gotta hit the range today. I'm gonna have to stretch out a little. All right, let's take a look.
I played Saturday for the first time in a while. Felt good to get out there.
Oh, wasn't it busy?
No, I took the last tee time. I put my son in the bag because he started caddy training yesterday. So I wanted to get him out on an actual course and put the knowledge to the test, and got some eyeballs. People were it was unusual.
You went to a course that doesn't offer caddies.
Played as a solo with a caddy.
That's actually a fucking funny move.
It was great.
I love that. I'm going to come down to Chicago and pay him to caddy for me. And I'm going to go to the shittiest Muni, like $30 Muni for sure, and have him caddy. I'm gonna buy him a jumpsuit. You have to get me a size off the air. All right, the rabbit hole, which is our crown jewel here over at the tools we have. There's some other tools, but this is one we're going to use today. We're going to build a custom model. If you want to do this, you have to pay money because we have to pay the devs to run the data, and it costs money. So apologies in advance for that. I hate selling you stuff, but it's not that much. It's $30 a month. It's much less than that if you get a yearly sub. So $30 a month, that's like what? That's like $7 a tournament for the most part. That's not that much. I'm guaranteeing you're putting more money than that into your outrights, into your DFS. So, and honestly, if you DM me, I will send you a promo code for a cheaper first month. If you put a comment in the description and pick the winner this week, I'll even let you pick Rory. I don't even care. That's how much I hate him. I'll give you, we'll do a free week because we have a 4-1 favorite. I'm letting him, but I'll keep doing that. No one has picked a winner in the comments on the YouTube yet. If you pick the winner, you get a free week, guaranteed. Up Scout's honor on that. So, otherwise, you got 90 days for $10. All you need is a fresh new Underdog Fantasy account, as Ryan has up on screen. Betsperts Golf, all one word, promo code. Sign up, deposit $10. You'll get an email with a unique promo code that'll give you a free 90 days. 90 days. That's all of June, all of July, all of August. That's going to be the U.S. Open. Like we said, Memorial. That's going to be the Open. You're going to get the 3M. You're going to get the Olympics. You're going to get the playoffs. I don't care how you feel about the playoffs. I hate them, but those are big tournaments. So free, not a free 90 days. It's going to cost you $10, but $10 doesn't disappear. You can use that to play some pick'em. Ryan's putting pick'em articles up. Ryan's putting pick'em, entries up on his Twitter. I think you've had some measure of success with that. So check that out. If you need the link to that, or if you have any questions, you can hit us up on Twitter. Otherwise, it is in the show notes. It is in the YouTube description. It is in the show notes of the podcast. Underdog Fantasy, Betsperts Golf partnership, guys. Support us by supporting the sponsors and rabbit hole away with us.
Yeah, great place to build a model, and I think a unique way to use it this week. or a great week, because there are some unique things that we talked about: the shaved runoffs, short grass stuff, less than driver, anchor stats. Again, we're not going to, it seems like we want to go pretty high level and not get too granular this week. You think strokes gained total to start, who's played well last 6 months, 2024, something like that.
Yeah, switch the season to 2024. Let's grab the first 5 months of the year, and we'll just do, like you said, strokes gained total.
Yeah, familiar names, you guys, you would probably expect here. Obviously, Rory, Alex Noren, Sahith, your top 3
top 20
here.
machine, we said.
Yep. Strokes gained 2024. Just click that little plus button. You can make a note for yourself if you'd like to. You don't have to. And you just click add, and it'll be in the list when you go to click this create mixed condition model button. And we can go ahead and continue to add more stats. Again, you can add as many as you like, as few as you like, whatever you need to do to parse through these players and hone in on a betting card, hone in on the DFS player pool, however you want to use it to. You should probably show some of these other tools too. Our optimizer kicks ass. I'm not a big optimizer guy. I'm typically hand building, 3 lineups. Again, we have a DFS show on Wednesday. I could check that out too. But some other great tools as well, like custom simulator, matchup tools. That's really, really awesome. And people are having a lot of fun in Discord, picking off some really soft lines through our projections, through the customizable matchup tool. So yeah, lots of other tools, not just the rabbit hole, though this is obviously the crown jewel of what we get here. So
show that quick. Just go to that matchup tool just for a hot tick.
Sure.
Because like here, I'm on DraftKings.
Okay.
So we've got Adam Scott minus 120. So you can it'll list everyone in the field. You enter the odds that your book is offering you, and then it is Van Rooyen at even money.
AVR.
It starts with a E.
Yeah, I was in the E's. Let me just. Is he not in the field?
maybe he pulled out. Honestly,
no, maybe. Let's go.
Aaron Rye, Taylor Pendrith. I'm picking guys to start with A for easy. Of course, I got it broken. I might not even be looking at the right tournament here.
Pendrith's in the field.
Right. Well, I'm gonna have to yell at Dev. Look at me, just putting my foot in my mouth. Show the tool that I broke.
We'll just show him.
Young. Find Cam Young. He's in the field, surely.
He is, but he's not in the list.
That's Carson Young.
Yeah, we'll just show people what it does when it's working. We have the correct players loaded. If you were to put in the price, you can run simulation, and it'll give you the break-even odds, expected value. We'll have a dev call here right after to make sure we get this completely updated. But it'll tell you how often that's going to win, and then how often you should bet it. So this would be a great price if you can get Aaron Rye against Cam Davis. This would be a screaming buy.
Seeing like Cam Davis isn't in the field, and he's going to win this 100% of the time.
Yeah, because this is everybody, right? So this is not even that field. Just interesting. Maybe we want to make sure we have that field correct, and it's not literally everyone that is participating in golf. Yeah, there you go.
All right, Aaron Rye over Daniel Berger. I'll tell you what the break-even price is, and you can see on the top there. Yep. If you're listening, sorry, this is bad audio, but if you're watching, you can see that you can change it to from round to tournament. This is a 1-round price we're evaluating. You can evaluate it as a 72-hole price. You can change whether it's a 2 or a 3-way line. You can see that void. You can change it to, you can evaluate 6 prices. There's some of those group bets, or let's say it's top Scandinavian, and there's like 5 of them. You can click the 5 rather than 2, put all 5 of them in, put their prices in there, and it'll tell you, who you think the best South American is, or what have you. So you can do a lot with this tool. Again, it's based on the projections that we'll be kind of providing on the back end. Still, make your own decisions, choose your own adventure, but definitely worth checking out. Back to the rabbit hole.
All right, did strokes gain total?
Okay, strokes gain total is an anchor stat.
Yeah. Let's go off the tee. I think there's a few things this week. I mean, You can mess around with less than driver. We can mess around with however we want to do that. I think some form of accuracy, distance from the edge of the fairway, good drive percentage. I think these are all viable ways to look at off the tee this week. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I'm either getting into one of those subcategory ones, or I'm putting a filter in for, less than driver and just looking at off the tee.
Okay.
Whatever you think is kind of best there.
Let's go less than driver. And then we can look at strokes gained off the tee last 6 months. Not a good sample. Let's back this out a little bit longer. Let's kick this out. Yeah, 18 months gives us a decent sample. Getting most of these guys at least 20 rounds, which I think is pretty good. And see some success, guys that have had some success here in the past. Kevin Yu, Aaron Rye, Corey Connors, Johnny Vegas. I believe he's won the Canadian before a long time ago. Let me see that. Is, I believe, true. Rory, Sam Stevens, Keith Mitchell, T Dunks, Shane Lowry, Hayden Buckley, which I think is is an interesting group. Yeah, Vegas back to back, 16 and 17. So yeah, I mean, small sample, but accuracy not there. But off the tee, less than driver, clubbing downs, guys that can use distance, their distance advantage still, even though they're not taking out the big stick, I think is an interesting way to look at it. So we'll go off the tee, less than driver. All right.
So you just inventing abbreviations.
Pretty much.
Yeah. All right. And then the other 80% of the model should just be approach.
That's call it a day. Approach. You can, Ron and I messed around with this yesterday in our first look show. You can mess around now that we have a pretty decent sample size of 2024 data. You can mess around with sample sizes, right? Like who's dialed in right now, look at last 12 or 16 rounds played, go a little bit longer, maybe look at 24 or 30 rounds played, 36 rounds played. And then, having just the longest view of who's just baseline skills really good at approach, 50 rounds, 75 rounds. I think you can mess around with multiple strokes gained approach and just weigh the sample differently. I think is probably pretty useful at this point. So I wouldn't think anything else here, like going for the green. Again, we only have the two par fives. I don't think that matters. I think they're in play for everyone. Overall proximity wouldn't be of interest to me. So let's go approach. We'll throw in we'll do two. We'll do 16. And then we'll go a little bit longer. We'll go 50. So last 16 approach. And then we'll go last 50 approach. And then we can mess around.
This is nice. This is a nice feature too I'm a proponent of building models this way, and it's not something I'm going to use, entirely for that, but it's like a blended time model where I do add like, hey, who's in form, and you have to give them obviously some thought because of all the double counting. Like When you put in 12 rounds, 24 rounds, last 50 rounds, last 100 rounds, you got to realize all 4 of those are counting the last 12 rounds. 3 of them are counting the 24. So make sure you're adjusting your percentages accordingly, but it's a nice way to start to look at like who's showing long and short long and short-term form at this point. So I like doing that with approach. I like doing that with greens and reg and a couple other stats as well. Not usually something I'm saving as like an expert model to share with the world, but I do like to build some sub models like that just to kind of take a peek at when it's really going to matter like it is this week.
Totally agree. I think it does. It's a good way to do it. And you mess around with the weights. That's all you got to do here too. One other thing you can do is mess around with the round feature size. Obviously we have the time frame and then here the number of rounds, but you can see here, you're going to get some small sample stuff. You can go into this minimum round section, just kind of filter out the really small sample of guys that, if maybe only played twice on tour or something like that, rookies or whatnot, Euro guys that are coming over that don't play often because they're going to mess up your data set a little bit. So this looking here around the green, looking at scrambling on short grass, which is what we're going to have mostly this week. Some interesting names here in terms of maybe Grayson Sig, for instance. I'm not interested in Grayson Sig to win this event, but he finds fairways. His approach game is really good. He's third. We just saw in last 50 rounds approach. in this field, and he's 6th in scrambling from the short grass. So like Grayson Sig plus whatever to T40 or something like that could be an interesting look this week. So some other decent names here at the top. Again, you see some of the mess around with sample. Rory's been pretty good scrambling from the short grass as well. If we mess around with the sample here. So I'm going to add that here. Do you want to put any filters, do anything else, mess with the sample size? What are your thoughts on that?
No, I think that's fine.
Okay. Let's see, scrambling, short grass. All right. Putting, scoring. What do you want to do there? Obviously, par 4s are more important because you got more of them this week than normal.
Let's go to floor ceiling quick just to look.
Yeah.
All right. Change it to 2 years. And then bent grass.
All right, bent grass.
I think this is just interesting to look at as well. And then click on putting.
Mm-hmm. All right, your best. Well, again, this is not your best per se. This is not strokes gained total. This is not that. This is how frequently you're gaining strokes in this particular bucket. You can look at this through any of the strokes gain lenses, and now spiked weeks too. So not just how often are you gaining, but how often are you gaining, say, 2, 4, 5 strokes putting or 5 strokes off the tee in any of these ranges. You can do this through any filtering, however you want to look at it. So again, I think a great tool for DFS lineup building because you get a sense of what do those spike weeks look like, how frequently they happen. You can see here who is gaining strokes putting more frequently than not over the last 2 years on bents.
3+.
Okay. Get some guys. Not a lot.
Japanese. Seamus.
Yeah, Seamus. Not consistent.
It's interesting seeing the red in there and then seeing the green where it's like, oh, he had it's nothing in between. It's either gaining some or gaining 3+.
So the interesting one, like Shane Lowry is interesting here. Like we're not, I mean, I don't exaggerate, but there's a 5+ in here for Shane. But he is towards the bottom in terms of just gaining overall. Putting wise. So that's really interesting. Putted his face off last time he was here again, 4 rounds 5 years ago. So make of that what you will. It is a noisy sample. But again, Fleetwood popping up here, and there's a more consistent green pattern across the board for Tommy. You could say the same thing for Ryu at the top. If you're looking to go with a younger down the board play.
Sharon.
Yeah.
Cheapers cats.
So you could search by player. You want to see, let's see Rory in particular, see where he's at. He's gaining half the time, but really not a ton of spike weeks coming in for Rory over the last couple of years on bent. Just interesting to see. Yeah, you can search by player, and again, you can look at any of the strokes game buckets here. So, sure. Anything jump out?
Yeah, I mean, there's some names. Again, it's more of like. Should I spend a little more time looking at Austin Cook and seeing if it's like a top 40 price I want, based on this? He has to, there have to be some commensurate skill levels in the other stat buckets to make me want to do that. But for now, it's, I'm not super sure how I feel about Austin Cook from Arkansas.
Yeah. This is a work in progress still. I'm excited to share it with you guys. Player pages are coming. They're here because like you just did, click on Austin Cook's name and take you to what he's done as of late. We're having some challenges here with the graphs, but we'll get there. The rest of it here is really, I think, ready to go and of interest to you too. So you can see how someone is playing last 12, 24, 50, 100 rounds played. You can look at their recent events. You can search by majors only, look at a particular event if you want to dial way back, anything like that as well. The last year answer, my friend, it's not great for Austin Cook. But
He's
though
not
I would
great, Bob.
But look, I mean, he hasn't played a ton.
Didn't make the cut at Myrtle Beach. Throw him out.
Yeah.
What, a guy's just going to play like shit all year and then win by 5 strokes? When's the last time that happened?
Yeah. And like just keep Scotty at bay all Sunday. Yeah, congrats to Davis Riley for sure.
Baffling
yeah.
win. Golf is tough, guys.
Golf is
All right,
weird.
let's add something quick because we're starting to wind down here. Scoring or putting? What do you think? I looked at putting. I don't know.
Okay.
Let's just go scoring.
Okay. Let's go scoring, and we'll look at what do you want to do? I mean, you got to avoid bogeys, birdie or better. You want to do birdie or better bent? Let's see what we got. We'll go 3 years.
We're around the green stats, so
we did. Look at 3 years of bent and see what we get sample wise, and see birdie or better rates for these guys. We'll have to get some of these guys out of here with the small rounds. But I think this is decent. Yeah, you get a lot of guys up there at 100. We got 112 of the players. So yeah, Rory, Harry Hall, Tom Kim, S.H. Kim, Sam Burns, Kelly Craft, Jason Hadley, Taylor Pendrith, Davis Thompson, Nasty, Nate Lashley, rounding out your top 10. So not bad. Not bad. Rory,
right, add it. Let's add it. See where we're at.
Birdie or better. Bent. All right. Again, click this create mixed condition model button, give it a name. This is Andy Noonan Betting Show Canada. Blame Canada. We got 6 things. Yeah, not bad. Anchor stat. We'll see who's playing well this season. Off the tee, less than driver, I think we think is important. But again, approach is where I think we really want to make our hay. You want to weigh, I'm guessing, longer term approach a little bit more than short term.
Yeah, let's go ahead with that.
Let's see what we got here. Like short grass. I don't think we love. They want to have to ramp some stuff up here. 25. See what we get here. I don't want to go crazy on birdies. We'll give last 50 approach a little bit of a longer bucket. Again, you can take more time for the sake of a show. We're trying to, put this out for you. But again, you can mess around and change your weights and do different things to make sure you get it here. We'll save this as an expert ranking model for you. You can go into this here, view expert rankings, and see. You're going to see Andy Lack's model from Inside Golf Podcast. Matt Vicenzi from Tapping In Podcast. His stuff's in here as well. Ron Kloss, you can see our guy Ron's is in here. My model for Hamilton's here as well. And I'm sure you'll get something from Andy here shortly, but those are all accessible for you as well. And I think it's a great process to go in and see what's being added to other people's models that you weren't considering, or maybe how much they weighed something. I think it's a good process to click in and look at. So we'll save and generate. We'll see what we get here. I'm assuming Rory at the top. Let's see here.
Oh, Corey Connors. Weird.
Yeah, Doug Gim. Shocker. Rory 1, Keith Mitchell 2, Corey Connors 3, Aaron Rye 4, Shane Lowry 5, Doug Gim 6, Kevin Yu 7, Sam Burns 8, Davis Thompson 9, Adam Scott 10, Alex Noren not too far behind, getting dragged down for his off the tee stuff here. But again, not a shocking. Again, you continue to scroll down here, the top of the board, guys we were just talking about. Yeah, Sahith, Akshay, Cam Young, rounding out kind of the top 15 here. Some other interesting names. Some of these guys that I think are interesting from a finishing position standpoint this week are Bryce Garnett, Kelly Craft, Grayson Sig. Those guys are not going to win this golf tournament, but they could be really interesting. Have you bet anyone?
No, I did find that Sepp Straka top 20. I don't know, or Sepp Straka, excuse me. Alex Noren, mixing up my Scandinavians.
Yeah,
Sepp was my guy last week. Had a few bets on him and wish he'd have won. That'd have been better, but no, like Noren's about 110 to be top 20. I think that's a bet for sure. Like I said, yeah. I'm in a real ticklish spot here because I don't know that the Rory price is bad. It's a full field. It's a lot of guys to beat. He has some, like you said, we have some ups and downs with him. He's not as steady as Steady Hand Scotty. So maybe a live Rory, and if I just miss it, I miss it. Whatever. Just because I think this, this is a course that if you want to play it a little aggressively and get squirrely with it, like we can see what we saw here 5 years ago with Rory on Sunday. So I think he has some room to come make a little bit of a catch up, but man, I'm going to look at some deeper shots and play some top 10s and top 20s. Like we said, Grayson Siggs, 125 to 1. I don't know if you've got him as a top 40 yet. I think that's a great look. Seamus Power, 80 to 1. He's somebody I'm probably going to play here. Man, Eric Cole, you and I, maybe we're not simpatico anymore.
No.
Aaron Rye,
that'd be great.
40 to 50. That's another one where I might consider him to win as well as top 20.
Yeah. I mean, I like him for sure to finish well, but yeah,
it's hard to bet these guys to win these things.
I know. Like, I liked Mav McNeely coming into the week. I thought, like, when I was looking at this stuff first on Sunday, he's like 35. I'm like, can I Mav McNeely 35? I can't do it. Like, I just is Mav McNeely holding off Rory? I don't know. I mean, it's not like he can't, but like he's probably not. I mean, Rory, again, obviously the thought there is Rory's not in the mix, so it opens the entire thing up.
I was going to say, so let's get to a quick situation where Rory's not in the mix.
Yeah, it brings all these dudes into play. I mean, Sam Burns probably is underpriced.
Guys, I think that some of the guys that have some stones, some win equity, Sam Burns. It's just the odds are kind of low. Tom Kim isn't the same Tom Kim we were used to, and again, the odds are kind of low. Højgaard's a distance guy. Like, I'm not so sure I want him. You bet Tom Kim?
Bet Tom Kim. I don't feel great about it, but I think like these are the tracks that I think Tom Kim, he's at a distance, but I think these are going to be the tracks that he wins at. And I don't feel great about it, but I kind of went with when I talked about at the top, like I picked a golfer archetype. I went with, fairway finders that have some upside. We could see some spike weeks from Tom Kim. You saw the bent grass putting splits were pretty good for Tom Kim. He just hasn't been as good from an approach standpoint, but he's better with the shorter irons. And if he can put himself in position off the tee, which he does fairly well, even with the added distance gains, he's still finding fairways in an above average clip. I think he's a decent look. He's one of the guys. I have 3 so far. I don't have the Tommy affliction. But I picked Fleetwood this week at 16. I like how it sets up for him. Really good putter on bents. Really good. I know he just doesn't win golf tournaments. I mean, he won in Dubai in January, but we know he's never won in America, in the US. This feels like a perfect spot. Like he wins in Canada and not in the States.
Top 10. Yeah. I might play that.
Yeah.
I might play that. So far I got a top 20 on Noren and a 10 on Fleetwood. And who'd you bet? Burns?
Berger down the board at 90.
Berger's a big price. I'm still not sure where he's at mentally, where he's at physically, but 90 is a big price on a guy we bet an awful lot 2 years ago.
Yeah. He just hasn't been putting well or chipping well, the around the green stuff. And that's like the staple of his game. Finds fairways and he can scramble really well. The approach stuff has been a little bit better. It's pieced together a couple of nice showings, 3 in a row. But I think this is a way better course fit than like him stretching him out at, Quail or something like that. So yeah, those are my 3. But I like the Rory live ad look. I need to continue to find ways to, like, I think Scotty wins the US Open at Pinehurst and he's 4 to 1 and I don't want to bet that. So, finding different ways to kind of get more Scotty equity at Pinehurst with like a Rory live ad parlay or something like that is some garbage crap that I'm definitely prone to do. So I'll look for that.
I'm going to build a very specific approach model this afternoon, and I'm going to base some top 20 bets and probably some to win bets off that. Okay. I'll save that. If you're a subscriber, I'll save that as an expert model. I'll name it so you know what it is, and we'll figure something out from there. But for now, just a couple placement bets. I like where your head's at. I'm a Tom Kim guy. I am. I would never bet Tommy to win a tournament, and
I know.
I'm a Berger guy. Shit.
90 is the 80s. I think are still out there. So pretty long number.
There's a 90. There's a 90 at bookmaker right now. So okay. Kind of tempted by that as well. I'm going to dig in on him, but again, the data we have on him isn't great right now because he had a long hiatus with some injuries.
Yep.
All right. Well, let us know who you think wins. Like I said in the comments, if you pick the winner, I'll give you a free week, which is pretty nice. It's
very
$15.
generous,
It
yeah.
doesn't take much to leave a comment. You just write, if you don't know, just write Rory. Like, he's 4-1. It's pretty easy. So, all right, guys, check it out. Hit a thumbs up if you watched on YouTube. Leave a 5-star review if you'd listened on a podcast. Follow us on Twitter. Check out betspertsgolf.com for articles, tools, and more. And we'll check you next week.